on to round 3, and we're going to go ahead and connect the pink yarn this time. As for where to join it in general, since I like to hold the tail in the stitches, I try to do it a distance away from the tail from the last one, but I don't want to be exactly across every time, so I just, pick something a little bit a ways away. That, again, the bigger it gets, the easier it is to do that. But that way I'm not holding, 2 tails of yarn in every time and sort of leaving it lopsided. For where to join for this round, again, we're going to find any increase and go ahead and join in the first stitch of that increase. So we use that as a landmark to join quite often. So draw up your loop, chain, and that counts as our first single crochet. For this repeat, we're going to do 2 single crochet followed by an increase. So 2 single crochet. Remember, the join counts as our first one for that first repeat. And now, sorry, my yarn is sticking again. Now an increase. So remember, back loop only. We need those front loops to connect other stitches in. Plus it gives the work a really nice look. I like that kind of extra line that it forms. So again, the repeat, 2 single crochet. Followed by an increase. So that's the repeat 8 times around. If you're with me 6 more times, we've just done it. Actually, I think we did it 3 times, but that's your repeat. Go ahead, finish it up, and I'll join you for the needle join again. All right, I'm getting to the end of this round. I've got my repeat, which is the 2 single crochet. And you notice my last stitch is there, ready for the increase. If you're getting to the end of the round and you're not noticing you're ending at the end of a repeat, it means that your stitch count is off somewhere. So one of these somewhere around, you either missed a increase, you added an extra stitch somewhere. It means that your pattern is off and you need to go back, find that mistake, and fix it, because any mistake you have here is going to impact every single round that comes after it. So especially in these first rounds, you want to make sure that you always end a round at the end of a repeat. So to join again, cut my yarn, pull it through, and do my needle join. So from back to front through both loops. Now from back to front, just through the back loop. There you go. Round 3 done. For round 4, we're going to go back to this magenta yarn. And in this round, we get our first overlay stitches, which are going to be puff stitches. I love the way they look, and I like saying them, puff stitches. Anyway, we're going to join this magenta yarn in the first stitch in any increase. So I got one right here. Join by drawing up a loop and then a chain. That's your first single crochet for the round. And we're going to do for the repeat 2 single crochet. So 1 and 2. Followed by a puff stitch that's going to go into this green front loop here. That's why we have those front loops available to us. So for a puff stitch, I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to go into the green front loop. That's just 1 stitch down. I'm going to draw up a loop and bring it up here to the top of my work, and I'm going to repeat that 4 times, so I have 5 total. So this is 1, 2, and my yarn is really tight here, so forgive me, 3, 4, and 5. Now draw up a loop, yarn over, and draw a loop through everything on your hook right there. Then we're going to secure that with a chain stitch. So that is our puff followed by a chain stitch, and I'm going to skip one stitch back here. When we do these overlay stitches, we have to skip usually a similar number of stitches in the back just to make sure that we keep the count right, because my stitch is here now, not the one I need back there. You've noticed though that I did 2 stitches, a puff and a chain. I'm only skipping one because with every repeat we also need an increase. So this sort of gives me a hidden increase. So I've got 2 stitches I just did here. I'm skipping one of them. That's giving me one extra one I didn't have before. So skip 1 stitch, and a single crochet there actually ends the repeat. So 2 single crochet, puff, chain, skip 1, 1 single crochet. So again, 2 single crochet, your puff stitch into the green front loop that's down below the stitch, this is 3, 4, this last one is always hard to get in here, 5. Now draw through everything on your hook, a chain to secure it. We're going to skip the 1 stitch there, and 1 single crochet finishes my repeat. So that's what you get. These little puff stitches will go all the way around. You'll have 8 of them at the end. So repeat that 8 times around, and I'll see you for the join. Alright, so I'm joining you here at the end to show the needle join. This is one of those rounds where it's really easy to get off your count, so make sure you end the round at the end of one of the repeats with one of those single crochets. If you're off, I would double check that you didn't skip more than 1 stitch for the puff stitches, excuse me, or you might have forgotten to skip a stitch or missed it, and that'll get you off your count really easily. So check those first. And like I said, at this point it's best to undo work, fix the mistake, and finish the round rather than trying to repair it later. So to end this guy, cut my yarn, pull it through, and I want to find the first single crochet, which is here. Note sometimes this won't be a single crochet. Sometimes you're going to be going into an overlay stitch. Sometimes it'll be a puff stitch, stuff like that. It happens. You just want to go into the first stitch after the chain stitch, and then into just the back loop of the last stitch of the round, whatever it happens to be. So I try to make them single crochets as much as possible, but that isn't always the case. So there you go, round 4 done. For round 5, we're going back to the pink yarn, and in this instance we're going to join in a puff stitch since we don't have any increases to join in. So the only thing you want to be careful of, join in the puff stitch. So here's the puff stitch, here's the chain that comes after it. Sometimes if you just look up, you might think the chain is the one you want to do. Here's the puff stitch, it's sort of over to the side a little bit. If you look here, my single crochets, this is the one that comes immediately after that last single crochet. That's your puff stitch. So I'm going to join in there with my chain. That counts as my first stitch. I'm going to hold the tail in my stitches now, and I want 3 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, followed by an increase. So 2 in the same, and then 1 more single crochet. And you notice at the end of the repeat, I'm up to the puff stitch, so that means I got my count right. So you can really check how you're doing with each repeat instead of just at the end of the round, especially as we go on, that becomes useful. So again, starting in that puff stitch, we have 3 single crochet, an increase, and a single crochet. Now, a word about this one. If your puff stitches are really tight, it's very easy to lose the chain stitch or miss the chain stitch that comes after the puff stitch, but you want to single crochet into that. So that, remember, that's where we got our increase last time. So if you're finding your count is off, I would say go back and check to see if you skipped that chain stitch by accident. It's, again, the tighter, the harder a time you had with the puff stitch, the more that chain tends to disappear. So hunt for it if you need to, but make sure you go into those chain stitches too. Don't miss them. We're not skipping any stitches on this one. So the repeat, join in a puff stitch, 3 single crochet, an increase, and 1 single crochet. That's it, 8 times around, and I'll catch you at the end. Okay, on to round 6. We're going to go back to the green yarn and do some more puff stitches. So we want to start not in one of our increases, but we want to start with the first stitch after an increase. So I got an increase here, which means I want the single crochet that came after it, or to the left. So we join with our chain stitch, and that's going to count as the first single crochet. We want 4 total right here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we have our puff stitch right here, which we're going to go into this magenta one. Here's where it's in, so we're going to go to the magenta front loop that comes right below it. So for our puff stitch, yarn over, go ahead, grab the front loop. And whenever we grab these front loops, it's always from bottom to top. Draw up a loop and bring it up. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. With all the puff stitch, we always finish it, follow it with a chain. And even though we did 2 stitches here, like before, we're only going to skip one so that we can build our increase right into it. So I'm going to skip that stitch and go into the one right after it. And that 1 single crochet finishes me out. If you notice, I've got my stitch right there ready to go. So the repeat again, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochet, a puff stitch. I can grab that front loop, it doesn't want to go right now. Grab my front loop, pull it a bit loose, get some space there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And pull through everything, and a chain to lock it in, and we finish the repeat by skipping 1 and single crocheting 1. So that's it. We did it twice here. You've got to do it 8 times total, and it's going to give us these green puff stitches happening between the magenta ones. So again, join in the first stitch after an increase, 4 single crochet, puff stitch, chain, skip 1, 1 single crochet after. That's it, 8 times around, and then we're ready for round number 7.